The conference room on Terminus 7 station was filled with representatives from 40 different worlds. Ambassador Hyanwu stood before the Galactic Council, holding a data tablet in his scaled hand. He was Velkar, a species that looked like walking lizards with 4 arms. His voice was calm and professional as he spoke. Item 742 on today's agenda: the planet designated Earth. Classification: Protected Primitive World. Last contact was 600 years ago, standard galactic time. According to our protocols, we must conduct a welfare check. Most of the council members barely looked up from their own devices. Welfare checks were routine, boring even. They happened every 6 centuries for developing species. The galaxy had been doing this for thousands of years. Nothing interesting ever happened during these visits. A young woman named Jiwan sat in the visitor section, her eyes bright with excitement. She was human, but not from Earth. Her ancestors had left that world generations ago, settling on a council colony world. She had studied xenodiplomacy her entire life, and this was her chance. She raised her hand. Ambassador Hyanwu, I would like to volunteer as first contact specialist for this mission. Hyanwu nodded approvingly. Your request is noted. Does anyone object? Silence filled the room. Very well approved. Assemble your team. Specialist Ju-1. 3 weeks later, Ju-1 stood on the bridge of her ship. The Harmonious Dawn. It was a small, diplomatic vessel, designed for peaceful meetings with developing species. Beside her ship flew 2 others. The first was a science vessel called the Bright Inquiry, commanded by a researcher named Tae Hyan. He was from the same species as G1, though his family came from a different colony. The second ship was a military escort, a small frigate named the Steady Shield. Its captain was Sung Min, a veteran officer who had spent 40 years in Council security forces. Preparing to jump to the Sol system, announced the navigation officer. All ships report ready. Giwan felt her heart race. She was going to meet humans from Earth. Real Earth humans. People who still lived on humanity's birth world. What would they be like? The last report from 600 years ago said they had just developed fusion power. By now, they should have spread across their solar system. Maybe they had colonies on Mars. Maybe they were building their first. Faster than light ship, the 3 ships jumped through space. Traveling in an instant from Council territory to the edge of human space, when they emerged, G1 immediately looked at her screens, expecting to see radio signals, ship traffic, orbital stations. Instead, she saw nothing. That's odd, muttered her communications officer. I'm not picking up any broadcasts. No radio, no laser communications, no quantum signals, nothing. Taehon's voice came through on the comm channel. My sensors show the same thing. The Sol system is completely silent. No electromagnetic activity from Earth at all. Captain Sungmin's military training kicked in immediately. All ships, battle stations. Unknown situation ahead. Proceed with caution. The 3 ships moved slowly into the solar system, their sensors scanning everything. As they got closer to Earth, the readings became more confusing. The planet was still there. The atmosphere was intact. The oceans were still blue. But something was terribly wrong. I'm detecting cities, said Taehyun. But they're dark. No lights. No power signatures. It looks like vegetation has overgrown large sections of what used to be farmland. Giwan felt cold fear creeping up her spine. What happened here? They moved closer, scanning more carefully. There were no bodies. No signs of war. No radiation that would indicate nuclear weapons. The cities stood intact, but empty. It was as if 10 billion people had simply vanished. Maybe they evacuated? Suggested someone from Taehyun's crew. Some kind of plague or disaster. But that didn't make sense. Where would 10 billion people go? And why wouldn't they leave any messages? Any warnings? It was Taehyun who noticed the first real clue. Wait, something's wrong with the moon. I'm detecting massive excavation on the far side. Someone carved out huge sections of it. This wasn't natural. They redirected their sensors. The moon showed signs of industrial mining on a scale that shocked them. Entire mountains had been removed with precision cutting tools. The mining was clean, efficient, and recent. Within the last century, by their estimates. Check Mars, ordered Captain Sung-min. Mars was the same. The planet showed similar excavation scars. Entire regions of the surface had been stripped away. The asteroid belt was next. When they scanned it, they found something even more disturbing. The asteroids had been reorganized. Someone had moved them, sorted them by composition, and then mined them almost completely clean. "This wasn't a disaster," said Sung-min quietly. "This was intentional. Someone industrialized this entire solar system and then left." "But who?" asked G1. "Humans were barely into fusion power 600 years ago. They couldn't do this." Tae-hyun was running calculations on his computers. "According to my analysis, this level of industrial activity would require several hundred years of continuous work. The mining patterns show increasing sophistication over time. Whoever did this started small and got better as they went." "Are you saying humans did this themselves?" G1 couldn't believe it. "That's impossible. Where did they go? Why did they leave?" Captain Sung-min was staring at his tactical display, his face grim. "I've seen mining patterns like this before. In military history classes, this is strategic resource extraction. Someone was gathering materials for a massive construction project. Based on the scale and efficiency, I'd say they were building a fleet." "A fleet?" Ji-won looked at him in confusion. "Why would humans need a fleet? They didn't even have faster-than-light travel." "I don't know," admitted Sung-min. "But look at these patterns. They mine the asteroids first, using the materials to build bigger mining equipment. Then they used that equipment to mine the Moon and Mars. Each step provided resources for the next step. This is exponential industrial growth. Military-grade logistics." The three ships spent 2 weeks searching the Sol system. They found more evidence of human activity. Abandoned orbital platforms. Empty space stations that had clearly been used for decades before being shut down. Manufacturing facilities on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, all stripped bare and silent. Finally, Gi-won called a meeting of all 3 crews via video link. "We need to decide what to do. We've found no humans. No messages. No explanation. Earth is abandoned, but there's no sign of what happened to its people." Tae-hyun pulled up a star chart. "I've been analyzing the trajectory patterns of debris in the asteroid belt. The way the materials were moved suggests a direction. If I'm right, they went that way." He pointed to a section of space away from the galactic core. "You think they left the system?" asked Sung-min. "I think they left with everything they could carry." Ji-won made her decision. "Then we follow them. We need to know what happened. The Council needs to know if there's a threat out here." But as their ships turned to follow the trail that Tae-hyun had found, Ji-won couldn't shake one thought from her mind. Humans had been alone in their solar system for 600 years. They'd industrialized their entire star system and then left everything behind. The question wasn't just where they went. The question was why. What could make an entire species abandon their homeworld? What could be so important that they would mine their own moon and leave their cradle empty? And perhaps most frightening of all, what were they building with all those resources? 6 months had passed since they left the empty Earth behind. Ji-won sat in her quarters aboard the Harmonious Dawn, staring at star charts that made less sense every day. They had followed the trail across 3 sectors of space, and each discovery made the mystery deeper. The first clue had been an asteroid field, 40 light-years from Earth. When they arrived, they found it completely mined out. Every single asteroid had been processed and removed. All that remained were scanning buoys, still active, still broadcasting data to receivers that were no longer there. Tae-hyun had managed to download the data logs. They showed decades of mining activity, ending about 100 years ago. The second clue was an abandoned orbital foundry near a red dwarf star. The facility was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Its reactors were still warm when they found it. Someone had used it recently, maybe within the last 10 years. Inside, they found manufacturing equipment designed to build ships. Big ships. The scale of the construction bays shocked all of them. These docking frames could hold vessels 30 kilometers long, Taehyun had said, his voice filled with disbelief. Nothing in the Council fleet is even half that size. Now, after months of jumping from one empty facility to another, G1 was reading reports to send back to the Council. She had sent 3 already, and each time the response was the same. The Council didn't believe her. They thought the expedition was chasing shadows. Earth was a dead world. Humanity went extinct. That was the official position. But G1 knew better. Someone was out here. Someone had built all of this. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Captain Sungmin entered, looking tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. "We found something. Taehyun wants you on his ship immediately." 20 minutes later, G1 was aboard the Bright Inquiry, standing in Taehyun's laboratory. The scientist looked excited and frightened at the same time. "Look at this," he said, pulling up images on his display. "We found a way station in the Kepler 442 system. It's hidden inside a hollow asteroid. The thermal signature is almost invisible. We only found it because I was scanning for quantum residue." The images showed a facility carved into the interior of a large asteroid. Unlike the other sites they had found, this one wasn't empty. There were habitation modules, life support systems, and most importantly, computer cores that were still intact. "I've been trying to decrypt the data for the past 6 hours," Taehyun continued. "The encryption is sophisticated, but I finally broke through. Gi-won, you need to see this." He played a video file. A human woman appeared on the screen. She looked tired, wearing a simple, gray uniform. Behind her, G1 could see other humans working at stations, all looking busy and stressed. "This is Commander Hyren of the colonial vessel Perseverance. Date is July 18th, year 297 post-Exodus. We're completing the final supply run before moving to the next assembly point. Construction of Battle Group 7 is on schedule. We should have another 40 vessels ready within 20 years. The woman paused, looking directly at the camera. "If anyone finds this record, you need to know what we're doing and why. 50 years after the Council's last visit to Earth, our telescopes detected something. An extragalactic threat. A machine swarm coming from beyond our galaxy. We calculated their trajectory and speed. They're heading straight for the Milky Way." G1 felt her blood run cold. The woman on the screen continued. "We ran the numbers 1,000 times. The swarm will reach the outer edges of the galaxy in approximately 800 years from the time we first detected them. We tried to send warnings, but we didn't have faster-than-light communication. The Council wouldn't return to Earth for another 550 years. By then, it would be too late." Hyren's expression hardened. "So we made a choice. All of humanity. Every nation, every culture, every person. We held a vote, and it was almost unanimous. We would not wait to die. We would not hope that someone else would save us. We would save ourselves, and if possible, we would save everyone else too." The video shifted to show images of massive construction projects, ships being built in secret facilities, entire populations moving into space habitats, resources being gathered from every corner of the Sol system. "We evacuated Earth completely. 10 billion people. It took us 40 years. We built generation ships, mobile habitats, and construction vessels. We took everything we could carry, and we left. Some people wanted to stay, to die on Earth when the time came, but in the end, almost everyone chose to fight." Hyren looked tired now. "We've been out here for 300 years now. Most people alive today never saw Earth. They were born on ships, in space. They grew up knowing that their entire purpose was to build a fleet strong enough to stop the swarm. We've industrialized 50 star systems. We've built weapons that our ancestors couldn't even imagine. We've trained soldiers and strategists across 10 generations. The video showed tactical displays, fleet formations, weapon designs. Everything was focused on one goal: prepare for war. The swarm is still coming. Our advanced scouts made contact 15 years ago. The first skirmishes have already begun. We're fighting a delaying action, trying to slow them down. Every ship we destroy is one less that will reach the inner galaxy. Every year we buy is one more year that someone else might prepare. Hiren leaned forward, her eyes intense. If you're watching this, if you're from the Council, please understand. We didn't abandon Earth because we were afraid. We didn't run away. We left because we chose to fight a battle that no one else even knew was coming. We've been at war for 300 years, and we'll keep fighting until we win, or until there's no one left to fight. The video ended with coordinates and a timestamp from 3 months ago. Then another message appeared. Just text this time. Engagement imminent. Perimeter defense line 7. If you find this, stay away. The laboratory was silent for a long moment. Finally, Captain Sungmin spoke. We need to inform the Council immediately. This changes everything. But G1 was staring at the coordinates on the screen. Those coordinates are only 2 weeks away at maximum speed. We should go back, said Sungmin. This is bigger than a first contact mission. The Council needs to mobilize. That will take months, G1 argued. Maybe years. By the time the Council believes us, by the time they organize a response, it might be too late. Taehyun was pulling up astronomical data. I can confirm parts of the story. I'm detecting faint signals from the direction they indicated. Something big is happening out there. Sungmin paced back and forth, clearly struggling with the decision. He was a military man, trained to follow protocols, but he was also smart enough to see what needed to happen. We split up, he finally said. I'll take the steady shield back to Council space. I can make better speed alone, and I'll have the data to prove everything. You two continue forward. Try to make contact with the human fleet. Find out exactly what we're dealing with. G1 nodded. Agreed. But be careful, Sungmin warned. These humans have been preparing for war for 6 centuries. They've never seen an alien species besides themselves. They might not trust you. 3 days later, Juan watched the steady shield jump away, heading back toward Council space at maximum speed. She felt very alone suddenly. Just 2 ships heading toward a war that the galaxy didn't even know was happening. Ready to jump? Asked Taehyun over the comlink. Ready, G1 replied. The harmonious dawn and the bright inquiry jumped together. Following the coordinates from the message, they were heading toward a battle that had been raging for decades. Toward a species that had transformed itself into a war machine. Toward humans who had spent 600 years preparing to fight an enemy that no one else believed existed. Gi-1 just hoped they would survive long enough to talk to them. Because somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, humanity was fighting alone. And soon, very soon, the rest of the galaxy was going to realize that the quiet little species from Earth had declared war on extinction itself. The harmonious. Dawn's proximity alarm started screaming. Ji-won jerked awake in her chair, where she had fallen asleep during the long watch. Her hands flew to the controls, trying to understand what was happening. Collision warning, shouted her navigation officer. Unknown objects directly ahead. Thousands of them. On the screen, Ji-won saw a sight that made her heart stop. They had jumped directly into a defensive grid. Automated weapon platforms stretched as far as her sensors could detect. Each one was the size of a small building, covered in weapons and sensors. And all of them were turning to face her ship. Back us away slowly, Ji-won ordered, trying to keep her voice calm. No sudden moves. Taehyun, are you seeing this? I see it, came Taehyun's voice, tight with fear. My computer says there are over 2 million platforms in this sector alone. The grid extends for thousands of cubic light years. This is the largest defensive structure I've ever seen. Gi-won stared at the platforms. Each one could probably destroy her ship with a single shot. And there were millions of them. Try to hail them. Universal frequency. Let them know we're peaceful. Her communications officer worked frantically, broadcasting on all channels. No response yet. Wait, something's happening. The platforms are powering down their weapons. I'm receiving a hailing frequency. The main screen changed, showing a young human man. He looked to be in his 20s, wearing a dark blue uniform. His expression was confused and cautious. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Jae-won of Defensive Station 447. You've entered restricted military space. Identify yourself immediately. G1 stood up, making sure the camera could see her clearly. Commander J1. My name is J1. I'm a first contact specialist from the Galactic Council. We've been searching for humanity for months. We found Earth empty and followed the trail here. The confusion on J1's face deepened. Galactic Council? I don't understand. Are you saying you're not human? I'm human, but not from Earth. My ancestors left your birth world generations ago. They settled on Council worlds. We came to Earth to check on your people, but the planet was abandoned. J1 looked off screen, apparently talking to someone else. Then he looked back at G1. I need to verify this. Please stand by. Do not move from your current position. Any movement will be considered hostile. The screen went dark. G1 sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. He didn't know. Did you hear that? He's never seen a non-human alien before. Taehaen's voice came through. That makes sense? They've been isolated for 6 centuries. If they were all born out here in deep space, they would only know humans. Hours passed. GON and her crew waited nervously, surrounded by weapon platforms that could destroy them in seconds. Finally, the communication channel opened again. This time, it wasn't J1. It was an older woman, her hair gray, her face lined with deep wrinkles. She wore a uniform with more decorations than G1 had ever seen. I am Admiral Sujin, commander of the Human Defense Fleet. Please forgive our delay. Your appearance has caused quite a stir. We've spent 600 years believing we were alone. Learning otherwise is somewhat overwhelming. The Admiral's expression softened. I'm granting you permission to approach the flagship. I think we have much to discuss. 2 days later, G1 stood in the docking bay of the largest ship she had ever seen. The vessel was called the Undying Memory, and it was 30 kilometers from bow to stern. The docking bay alone was bigger than most stations G1 had visited. Hundreds of humans lined the bay, all staring at her and Taehaen. They looked curious, but also wary. Gi-1 realized that she and Taehaen were probably the first non-Earth humans these people had ever seen in person. Admiral Sujin waited at the end of the bay, flanked by other officers. She looked even older in person, though she moved with the energy of someone much younger. When Ji-won reached her, the Admiral extended her hand in the traditional human greeting. Welcome aboard the Undying Memory, Sujin said warmly. I wish the circumstances were better. Gi-won shook her hand. Admiral, I have so many questions, and I have answers. Come, let me show you something. Sujin led them through the massive ship. As they walked, she explained the ship's history. It had been under construction for 150 years. It served as humanity's mobile capital, carrying government officials, historical archives, and the command structure for the entire fleet. Finally, they reached a large observation deck. Through the transparent walls, Ji-won could see space. But it wasn't empty space. Ships filled her vision. Thousands upon thousands of vessels, ranging from small fighters to enormous battleships. The fleet stretched in every direction. 10,000 combat vessels, Sujin said quietly. Plus, another 20,000 support ships. This is what humanity has built in 600 years of constant work. It's incredible, whispered Taehaen. It's not enough, Sujin replied. Come, let me show you what we're fighting. They moved to a tactical display. The Admiral pulled up long-range sensor data. What Ji-won saw made her blood freeze. The display showed a swarm. Not just a fleet, but a swarm. Millions of objects, each one a machine designed to consume matter and replicate itself. They moved through space like a plague, eating everything in their path. We call them the Devourers, explained Sujin. They're not alive. Not really. They're machines, but incredibly sophisticated ones. They came from another galaxy, one they already consumed completely. Now, they're coming for ours. How long have you been fighting them? Asked Ji-won. Direct combat. About 30 years, but we've been preparing for 6 centuries. Sujin pulled up tactical maps showing battle sites. We've been running guerrilla operations. Hit and run attacks. We use relativistic missiles, traveling at 99% light speed. Each one hits with the force of a nuclear weapon. We've destroyed billions of devourers. That sounds like you're winning, said Tehan. Hopefully Sujin shook her head. For every one we destroy, they build 10 more. The math is simple. There are 10 billion of us. There are quintillions of them. We can't win. G1 felt sick. Then why are you still fighting? The Admiral looked at her with eyes that held 600 years of determination. Because every devourer we destroy here is one that won't reach the galactic core. We can't save ourselves, but we might save everyone else. We're buying time. She pulled up another display showing projections. At current speed, the swarm will reach the Outer Council colonies in 12 years. They'll reach the galactic core in about 50 years. But because of our actions, we've slowed them down by 30 years. That's 30 extra years that the galaxy has to prepare. The Council doesn't know, Giwan said quietly. They thought Earth was extinct. They have no idea this is coming. I suspected as much. That's why we left data caches along our route. We hoped someone would find them eventually. Sujin smiled sadly. I just didn't expect it to take 600 years. Taehyun was studying the tactical data. These weapons you've developed, the physics alone. You've advanced in ways the Council never imagined. We had motivation, Sujin replied. When your entire species faces extinction, you innovate quickly. We've built reality anchor cannons that can lock space itself in place. Causality mines that explode backwards in time. Quantum disruptors that can tear apart matter at the subatomic level. We've done things the Council would consider impossible. Then there's hope, Giwan said. If we combine your weapons with the Council's fleets, we might have a chance. Sujin was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, how long would it take the Council to mobilize? I don't know. Months? Years maybe? They've never fought a war like this. Then we don't have time. The Admiral pulled up a new display. It showed enemy movements. The Devourers are preparing a major offensive. They'll hit our defensive line in less than 3 months. We'll hold as long as we can, but without reinforcements, we'll lose this position. Commander J1 entered the observation deck, looking urgent. Admiral, scouts report the swarm is moving faster than expected. We need to begin evacuation of the forward stations. Sujin nodded. Then she turned to G1. I need you to do something for me. Take your ships and go back to the Council. Tell them everything you've learned. Convince them to send help. Every ship they can spare. What about you? G1 asked. I'll be here, doing what humanity has done for 6 centuries. Holding the line, Sujin placed a hand on G1's shoulder. We didn't expect to be remembered. We didn't expect to be saved. We just wanted someone to survive. But if there's a chance that we don't have to fight alone anymore, I want to take it. G1 felt tears in her eyes. She looked at these humans who had spent generations preparing for a war to save people they'd never met. People who didn't even know they needed saving. I'll bring help, G1 promised. I swear it. I believe you, Sujin said with a tired smile. And hurry. Captain Sungmin's escort frigate, the Steady Shield, burst into Council space, running on emergency power. The ship had been jumping non-stop for 8 months, barely pausing to cool down the faster-than-light drives. 3 crew members had collapsed from exhaustion. 2 of the ship's engines were burnt out, but Sungmin had made it. The moment his ship docked at Terminus 7 station, Sungmin ran. He didn't wait for proper procedures. He didn't schedule an appointment. He burst into the Council chambers in the middle of a session, his uniform dirty and torn, his face covered in sweat. The galaxy is in danger, he shouted. You need to mobilize the fleet immediately. Security guards moved to remove him, but Ambassador Hyanwu held up a hand. Wait, that's Captain Sungmin. He was part of the Earth's expedition. Let him speak. Sungmin stumbled forward, barely able to stand. Humanity. They're not extinct. They're fighting a war? A machine swarm from another galaxy. It's coming here. 12 years until it reaches our borders. The Council chamber erupted in noise. Representatives shouted questions. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others demanded proof. Counselor Min Ji, a military strategist from the Telvanni coalition, stood up. She was a tall woman with blue skin and 3 eyes. "Captain Sunmin, that's a serious claim. Do you have evidence?" Sungmin pulled out a data core from his pocket. His hands shook as he held it up. "Everything. Logs from human facilities, sensor readings, live transmissions from their defensive grid. It's all here." Then he collapsed. His legs simply gave out. Guards caught him before he hit the floor. Medical teams rushed forward, carrying him out on a stretcher. As they did, Sungmin kept shouting, "Check the data. Please. They're fighting alone. They need help." The council chamber fell silent after he was gone. Ambassador Hyan-Woo picked up the data core Sungmin had dropped. "I propose we review this evidence immediately." For 3 days, the council reviewed every piece of data Sunmin had brought. They watched the videos from the human way station. They studied the sensor readings from the defensive grid. They analyzed the tactical data about the Devourers. Teams of scientists worked around the clock to verify the information. "Counselor." Minji presented her findings to the full council. "Everything checks out. The threat is real. The swarm is confirmed by multiple independent sources. At current velocity, it will reach our outer colonies in approximately 12 years. The council chamber exploded into chaos again. This time, the noise was different. It was fear. A representative from the Corvallian species stood up. "This must be a mistake. There hasn't been a war of this scale in 10,000 years. Surely there's a peaceful solution." "There is no negotiating with machines that exist only to consume and replicate," Minji replied flatly. "The humans have been fighting them for 30 years. They've tried everything," other representatives spoke up. "Then we evacuate. We abandon the outer colonies and fall back to the core." "And then what?" Minji demanded. "We abandon the core next. Eventually, we run out of places to run. The swarm doesn't stop. It doesn't tire. It just keeps coming." Ambassador Hyan-Woo stood up, his forearms spread wide. "The question is not whether we fight. The question is, can we fight? Our fleets are designed for exploration and peacekeeping, not warfare. Our weapons are centuries old. Our warriors are retired or dead." That was when Junho entered the chamber. He was a human, but not like Ji-won or Sungmin. Junho's ancestors had been among the few who chose not to join the exodus from Earth. Instead, they had settled on Council worlds. He was the human. Representative to the Galactic Council, though his role had been mostly ceremonial. After all, Earth was supposed to be a protected primitive world now. Junho walked to the center of the chamber. His voice was quiet but carried weight. "My ancestors made a choice 600 years ago. They saw what was coming. They could have hidden. They could have run to the farthest edges of the galaxy and hoped the swarm would miss them. Instead, they ran toward the danger. Spent 6 centuries building an army to fight a war that no one else believed was real." He looked around the chamber at all the different species. "Now you have the same choice. You can try to run, you can try to hide, or you can stand and fight." "With what?" demanded a counselor. "Our fleets are ceremonial, and we ask the ones who have been fighting all along," Junho replied. "We find the humans, and we beg them to teach us how to survive." The vote took 2 days. There were arguments, debates, and protests. Some representatives wanted to wait to gather more information. Others wanted to try diplomatic solutions. But in the end, the reality of the situation won out. The Galactic Council, for the first time in 10,000 years, declared a state of total war. Every member species was ordered to mobilize their fleets. Every shipyard was converted to military production. Every available resource was directed toward defense. The Council sent out a call to all civilizations, even those not part of the official membership. The message was simple. The galaxy faces extinction. Unite or die. Counselor Minji was placed in command of the military response. She immediately began organizing what ships they had. The problem was obvious within hours. The Council had 5,000 combat vessels total. Most of them were light cruisers designed for anti-piracy operations. Against millions of Devourers, they would last minutes. "We need time," Minji said during a strategy meeting. "Time to build proper warships. Time to train crews. Time to develop weapons. We don't have time, Ambassador Hyan-Wu replied. According to the data, the humans are about to face a major assault. If they fall, the swarm reaches our space in years instead of decades. Junho spoke up. Then we send what we have, not to fight, but to help. Every ship we send to support the humans is one more that can buy us time. The Council fleet against a machine swarm. Kunje shook her head. It's suicide. Maybe, Junho agreed. But my people have been committing suicide by degrees for 600 years. They're still fighting. Maybe we can learn from them. The Grand Fleet was assembled in record time. 5,000 warships from 40 different species. It wasn't much, but it was everything the Council had. Additional construction was already underway. Shipyards across the galaxy were working day and night to build more vessels. But those ships wouldn't be ready for years. The fleet that departed toward the Outer Veil was the hope of the galaxy. And everyone knew it probably wasn't enough. Captain Sungmin, recovered from his ordeal, was given command of a new ship. The Council had built it specially, incorporating some of the human technology they had found. It was called the Unity, meant to symbolize the coming together of all species. Sungmin stood on its bridge as the Grand Fleet prepared to jump. All ships report ready, announced the communications officer. Sungmin looked at the fleet displayed on his screens. 5,000 ships. Against an enemy that numbered in the quintillions? He thought about G1, still out there with the humans. He thought about Admiral Sujin and the human fleet, holding the line alone. Take us to war, Sungmin ordered. The Grand Fleet jumped. 5,000 ships vanished from Council space, heading toward a battle that had been raging for decades. A battle the galaxy was only now learning about. A battle that humanity had been fighting alone, not because they were strong, but because no one else knew it needed fighting. Behind them in Council space, the mobilization continued. Factories worked around the clock. Training facilities opened on every world. Scientists studied the human weapons technology, trying to understand it fast enough to make a difference. The galaxy was waking up to war. After 10,000 years of peace, they were remembering how to fight. And they were realizing that while they had been sleeping, humanity had been standing watch. Counselor Minji stood in the command center on Terminus 7, watching the tactical displays. The Grand Fleet was just the beginning. More ships were being built every day. More weapons were being developed. More soldiers were being trained. But the question remained, would it be enough? Could a galaxy that had forgotten warfare relearn it fast enough to survive? She thought about the humans, who had never forgotten, who had never stopped preparing, who had spent 6 centuries doing nothing but getting ready for this moment. Please let us be in time, Minji whispered to the empty room. Please let them still be alive when we arrive. The displays showed the Grand Fleet's progress. They would reach the human defensive line in 3 weeks. By then, the battle might already be over. One way or another, the Grand Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel into hell. Captain Sungmin stood on the bridge of the Unity. At displays that showed a battle beyond anything he had imagined. The human defensive line was under full assault. Thousands of ships fought against millions of devourer machines. Space itself seemed to burn with weapon fire. Get me a channel to the human flagship, Sungmin ordered. It took several minutes to establish communication through all the interference. When the channel finally opened, Admiral Sujin appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted. Behind her, Sungmin could see crew members running between stations. Alarms were blaring. Council Fleet, this is Admiral Sujin. I appreciate the gesture, but you need to leave immediately. This is no place for ceremonial vessels. With respect, Admiral, we're not here for show. We're here to fight. Sujin's expression shifted to surprise, then to something like hope. How many ships? 5,000 combat vessels? Everything the Council could spare? For a moment, Sujin closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. 600 years. We fought alone for 600 years, and now you're here. An explosion nearby shook the Unity. Sungmin gripped his chair. Psst. Are your orders, Admiral? Sujin's military training took over. She pulled up tactical displays. The Devourers are trying to break through our center line. We need your ships on the flanks. Draw their attention. Give us room to use our heavy weapons. Understood? All council ships, follow my lead. The Grand Fleet split into two groups, moving to support the human flanks. As they did, Sungmin got his first real look at the enemy. The Devourers were not elegant. They were not beautiful. They were simply functional. Machines built for one purpose: consume matter, build more machines. Each one was about the size of a fighter craft, covered in cutting tools and construction equipment. Individually, they were weak, but there were millions of them, and they moved like a swarm of insects. The council ships opened fire. Laser weapons, plasma cannons, and missile batteries filled space with destruction. Devourers died by the thousands. But for every one destroyed, 10 more took its place. They just keep coming, shouted someone on Sungmin's bridge. On the other side of the battlefield, Juan was aboard the Harmonious Dawn. Her small diplomatic vessel had no business being in a war zone, but she refused to leave. She had spent months with the humans, learning about their struggle. She would not abandon them now. Taehyun, are you seeing this? She called on the com channel. I see it. The scientist's voice was grim.
Oh.
Gi-1, I'm reading some strange energy signatures from the human flagship. I think they're preparing to fire their reality anchor cannon. What does that do? According to the data we've collected, it locks space itself in place. Nothing can move through the affected area. But the power requirements are enormous. They must be desperate. On the undying memory, Admiral Sujin made her decision. Target the reality anchor cannon on Sector 7. Maximum spread. Fire when ready. The massive weapon built into the flagship's bow began to charge. Energy readings spiked across every sensor in the battle zone. Then, reality itself seemed to freeze. A sphere of space, 10,000 kilometers across, became locked. The Devourers inside it stopped moving. They couldn't move. Space itself held them in place. Human ships immediately focused fire on the trapped machines, destroying them by the thousands. But the weapon had a cost. The undying memory's shields dropped completely. The ship was vulnerable. A wave of Devourers, seeing the opportunity, changed course. They headed straight for the flagship Commander J1, commanding Defensive Station 447. Saw what was happening. His station was small, barely armed compared to the main warships, but it was fast. And it was between the swarm and the Admiral. All power to engines, J1 ordered. Put us between them and the flagship. Sir, we'll be destroyed. Protested his second-in-command. That's the idea. Do it. The small station moved into position, its few weapons firing continuously. Devourers slammed into its shields. Alarms screamed as the shield generators overloaded. J1 kept firing, kept fighting, buying precious seconds for the flagship's shields to recharge. Tell the Admiral, J1 said calmly, that we hold the line. The station exploded, but those few seconds made the difference. The undying memory's shields came back online just as the Devourer swarm reached it. Aboard the Unity, Sungmin watched the sacrifice with a heavy heart. Then he saw something on his sensors that made him shout. More human ships. Coming from deeper in their territory? Reinforcements were arriving. More human vessels responding to the Admiral's call for help. They weren't military ships. They were construction vessels, mining ships, even colony transports. But every single one was armed. Every single one joined the fight. G1 understood in that moment what she was seeing. This wasn't just a military fleet. This was an entire civilization built around war. Every human, from soldier to engineer to teacher, was part of the war effort. Because they had to be. Because there was no other choice, the battle raged for 12 hours. Ships died on both sides. The Devourers were pushed back, but not defeated. They fell back to regroup, to build more machines from the destroyed ships. The humans and council forces used the break to catch their breath. Sungmin's ship docked with the undying memory. He met Admiral Sujin in person for the first time. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Around them, crew members worked to repair damage, treat wounded, and prepare for the next attack. You held, Sungmin said. We always hold, Sujin replied. It's what we do. Ju-1 joined them, along with Taehyun. The scientist looked excited despite the exhaustion. Admiral, I've been analyzing the Devourer tactics. With Council reinforcements, we can establish a rotating defense. Your ships can rest while ours hold the line. We can actually maintain this position. For how long? Asked Sujin. Long enough, said a new voice. Ambassador Han-Wu had arrived with the Grand Fleet. The old lizard-like alien looked round the damaged flagship with respect. Long enough for the rest of the galaxy to arrive? We're bringing more ships. More weapons. More soldiers? The Council has mobilized completely.
Ow.
Sujin sat down heavily. For the first time in decades, she let herself feel hope. You're really here. This isn't just a gesture. You're actually committing to this fight. We are Han-Wu confirmed, though I must apologize. We should have been here 600 years ago. If we had checked on Earth sooner, if we had believed, if we had acted, you wouldn't have had to fight alone. Sujin shook her head. We didn't fight alone. We fought for everyone. That's different. She stood up, her strength returning. But now we can fight together. And that changes everything. Over the next weeks, more Council ships arrived. Engineers from 40 different species worked with human scientists, combining technologies. The humans taught them about reality anchor weapons and causality mines. The Council species shared their shield technologies and faster-than-light communications. Mixed crews formed on ships. Humans learning to work with aliens they had only heard stories about. Aliens learning from humans who had spent their entire lives preparing for war. One day, G1 stood on an observation deck, watching the combined fleet. Human warships flew alongside Council vessels. The defensive grid had been expanded, reinforced with Council technology. It was no longer just a human fight. Taehyun joined her. I've been thinking about something, he said. The Devourers haven't attacked again. They're waiting. Waiting for what? For us to let our guard down. Or maybe they're building more machines. Either way, this isn't over. But look at that, she pointed to the fleet. 6 months ago, the galaxy didn't even know this war existed. Now we're fighting it together. That's something. In the flagship's command center, Admiral Sujin met with the Council military leaders. Maps and tactical displays filled the room. They were planning not just for defense, but for offense. For the first time in 600 years, humanity wasn't just holding the line. They were pushing back. I need to take the fight to them, said Counselor Minji. Destroy their construction facilities before they can build more, agreed, said Sujin. But it will require coordination. Human weapons with Council mobility. Your ships are faster than ours. Our weapons are more powerful. Together, we might actually be able to hurt them. Plans were made. Strike teams formed. The war was entering a new phase. In orbit, around a dead moon, a monument was being built. It stood where Earth's moon used to be, before humans mined it for resources. The monument was simple. A pillar of metal, with words engraved in every language of the Council, and in the human language, Captain Sungmin read the words aloud. Here, humanity learned to dream of stars. Here, they left everything behind. Here, they chose to stand. Ju-won stood beside him. Do you think we can win? I don't know, Sungmin admitted. But I know we're not fighting alone anymore. And maybe that's enough. Across the galaxy, shipyards worked day and night. Millions of beings trained for war. Scientists developed new weapons. Politicians debated strategies. The galaxy was united in a way it had never been before. The Devourers would return. Everyone knew that. The war was far from over. But when they came back, they would face not just humanity, but the entire galaxy standing together. Admiral Sujin stood on the bridge of the undying memory, looking at status reports. 600 years of fighting alone. 600 years of sacrifice. 600 years of wondering if anyone would ever know, ever care, ever help. Now she knew. They had always cared. They just hadn't known. A communication came in from the outer scouts. The Devourers were moving again, building new machines. Preparing for another assault? Sound the alert, Sujin ordered. All ships to battle stations. This is what we do. This is what we've always done. But this time, as the alarm sounded, it wasn't just on human ships. It sounded on council vessels too. 40 different species, speaking different languages from different worlds, all preparing to fight the same enemy. Humanity had declared war on extinction. Now, the galaxy joined them, and together they would hold the line.